coming off an off day, heading into a weekend series with Washington. Thought it might be good to take some viewer and listener questions here in the mailbag. We're going to talk some trades here, who the Brewers might be interested, who's completely off the table, and maybe what prospects the Brewers, I think, might give up. We'll talk about all that coming up on this Friday edition of Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, there's some names I'd love to see here with the Brewers. Some of those contracts I'm not real interested in. Some names out there are just lukewarm to me. And, you know, some of the Brewer top prospects, I don't know if I want to part with some of these guys. But I know to get somebody, you got to trade somebody, right? You got to, you just can't throw out, the bottom half of your farm system and expect to get Suarez here. We'll talk about all that coming up next. Hey, everybody, Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day, proud host of Locked On Brewers and longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin. Before I get to that, a couple of guys emailed me, and I don't know if they're Brewer fans or Cub fans, but we'll say they're Brewers fans because I changed my opinion about the Milwaukee Brewers. I think a lot of us have changed our opinion on the Brewers because the Brewers got off to such a slow start, and they look so wretched for April and May, right? I mean, they were just plodding along, 4 games under the 500 mark, not wretched, but just not playing the ball that we expected them to play, right? I expected them to be in the race like they are now. And I thought my projection was that the Cubs were just going to take off. They were 15, 16 games over the 500 mark. And I thought, boy, the Cubs are they're the real deal. And I thought the Brewers were like 6.5 out. Time to concentrate on the wild card. Even the wild card looked a little tough because you had San Francisco and San Diego playing so well. And I know you got on me, and one guy did and said, yeah, I got to let the season, he didn't say this, but like I let it marinate a little bit. He said 20, 40 games, and not only if it was 20, 40 games in that I was counting them out. It was probably like right around mid-May. I would say that I was thinking, well, maybe we should think about the wild card because the Brewers appeared like they were going nowhere. And yeah, maybe I should have let it plan out a little bit more. And the Cubs have kind of been, like I said the other day, taking on the personality of their manager. The Cubs haven't exactly taken off. There's been times that they've teased us and thought, oh, maybe they are going to take off. They swept the series from Cleveland last weekend, took 2 or 3 from St. Louis. And they went into Minnesota, and the Twins won the first 2 games, and the Cubs came back and won on Thursday. But the Brewers have just been consistent since Memorial Day weekend. And we're talking about a 7 or 8 week stretch here, 6 or 7, 8 week stretch here that they've been playing pretty well. And yeah, they are competing for a division title. And I said this a couple of podcasts ago. I said I was wrong thinking that the Cubs were going to blow away the competition in the National League Central. Hey, I could be wrong. Again, one of these Twitter guys came at me and said, hey, you've been around covering this team. For someone who's so ingrained in covering the team, you shouldn't have said that. Well, you know what? We all say those sort of things that, and sometimes we're wrong on them. It's opinion. It was an opinion at the time. Hey, I didn't trash the Milwaukee Brewers. I didn't say they were going to lose 90 games. I just thought the Brewers were not trending well. And I thought to expect that they were going to play such a terrific brand of ball like they did like last year, where all the baseball gods were on their side. They were pitching so well, defense and all that. And I thought with all the injuries they were suffering earlier in the year, it was starting to catch up with them. Well, obviously they have turned it around and they have been great. They're 13 games over the 500 mark and in the thick of this race. Going into this weekend, the Cubs are taking on the Yankees, who stormed back and had a big series against the Mariners this past week after a dreadful week. Hopefully the Yankees can keep it going this week at Yankee Stadium against the Cubs. And the Brewers come home, take on a Nationals team that's, again, they just fired their general manager, and their manager got beat in a series in St. Louis. And hopefully the Brewers can, as we always say, get fat on Washington, but I'll take 2 or 3. But I just want to say that off the bat. Yeah, I was wrong thinking the Cubs were going to blow away the division. It looked like they were going to come away and just take off. And the Brewers surprised me. I mean, I think they surprised a lot of us, right? The Brewers surprised a lot of us. We did not expect the Brewers to. If I would have told you Memorial Day weekend, well, the Brewers will be 13 and a half games over the 500 mark. They would have made a 17-game improvement. Nobody would have thought that. But they have, and here we are. And the summer of fun, which Antanasio, well, it's dubbed with Antanasio talking about the summer of fun, about bringing families out and having a great day at the ballpark. Well, none of us were on board with that. The summer of fun to us is all winning, right? That's all I care about. I don't care about the sausage races. I don't care, about several things that they do around the ballpark. And I love the military salute they give. I love Bob when he sings Bob Kozlowski, God Bless America. Two great things that surround it. But most of the stuff, the hot dog shoots and all that, hey, if you're losing 90 games, I don't care. I just want a winning team. I've had enough losing baseball in my lifetime. Again, look at my back wall there where it says, yes, yes, a pennant. That's the Brewers winning their only pennant, and that was the American League back in 1982. All right, so the trade market out there. We're going to get some of your questions as well. People have asked, a lot of it has been about the trade market. Some of the names out there. Now, someone emailed me, Charlie Johnson, says, let me get my glasses on here. Who would the Brewers most likely, Charlie Johnson says, realistic players for the Brewers to try and acquire at the deadline. Realistic players. Now, there's some players who are unrealistic. The Brewers haven't really made a big splash at the trading deadline since CeCe in 2008, right? Because he was the top piece out there, and the Brewers somehow got him from everybody. Now, I think realistically, some of these guys, all these guys are on the table. Some of these guys, I'm not sure they're going to be on the move. But at the top of the list, I think Ryan O'Hearn is a possibility with Baltimore. 32 home runs. But I'm not completely bowled over by this guy. He's batting .264, 8 homers. I think he's on the trade market. He would be a guy realistically. But I don't know. I like what I have. I like what I have over Ryan O'Hearn right now. Over at first base. So Ryan O'Hearn, he would be a possibility. He's on the trade market. He popped up, but I don't think that's the guy I'm looking at. Now, the guys who I would say third base, Ryan O'Hearn is a possibility, but I would be surprised at that. I saw a couple of rumors out there that maybe the Brewers could be interested, but I'd be surprised. Suarez has been mentioned. Sounds like he's most likely going to be one of those Yankee things, where the Yankees overpay for somebody. And Suarez would be ideal, obviously, in Milwaukee. Yeah, he's an aging third baseman, but some big-time pop over at third base. Suarez, I would love here. Of course, I would love to have Suarez with the Brewers. I just don't think that's a possibility. Some of you have mentioned Bregman. There's been reports that Bregman could be associated with the Milwaukee Brewers in a trade possibility. Boston's won 8 in a row now. Was it 7 or 8 in a row right now? It's had another win last night over Tampa. They're on a roll. So maybe they're second guessing that. And I also have read where Alex Bregman could be signing a contract extension with Boston. The contract he's on for a couple of more years with Boston. But the Red Sox are also they're on the hook for $20 million a year for the next couple of years, but also on the hook for a deferred payment of $6 million a year. Because when you look at Bregman initially, you say, well, $20 million a year, that's all, we'll take that. Well, there's also a deferred payment of $6 million a year for Bregman through 2044. Brewers don't want to get into that. We don't want to get into that deferred payment stuff. So Bregman, I think, would be not a possibility. And plus, I don't think the Red Sox are dealing with him. He's an all-star. He's coming back from injury here this weekend. Obviously, great. But the Brewers, what turns out to be like a $35 to $40 million contract, and that's what he would get. Would not be interested. Bregman, again, boss is looking to possibly extend him. Some of you have mentioned LeMahieu. Nah, not enough pop. Has seen his better days. Was recently released, DFA'd by the Yankees. 266, 2 homers. Good team guy, good locker room guy. Friends with Aaron Judge over there in New York. But he's got 22 million remaining on his contract. Just not a guy who's mounted up his share of injuries too. No, not interested. DJ LeMahieu, no. Especially with having to pick up the remaining amount of that money, no. Which brings me to the guy I'd be most interested in, and I touched on this the other day. Ramirez with Cleveland. If he's on the block, but he's a guy, again, I like taller players. Some of you've obviously bookmarked what I said about Caleb Durbin. I'm not a big fan of Caleb Durbin. Made a nice catch, a leaping catch the other day. He's about 5'6", 5'7". I want a big third baseman, but Ramirez at 5'8" might be a little I have a different opinion with him. The guy's just great. I would seriously think of giving one of my top prospects for Ramirez. 5'8", 17 homers, 25 stolen bases. He becomes a free agent in 2027. Ramirez with Cleveland, just a flat-out gamer. If I could have anybody of these third basemen, anybody, I would take Ramirez. Ramirez would be my guy. Oh, he would. There's no doubt. But I'm looking at this list of guys who are out there, trade candidates, like Ryan McMahon of Colorado. He's batting, 206? I don't have any interest in him. Maybe before the season, off season. No, not at all. Not at all. And a lot of these pitchers who are available, Merrill Kelly would love to have him, but the Brewers have enough pitching. Again, it's great to be in that position where you have a baseball team that's contending and doesn't need pitching. Arenado's never coming to the Cardinals, or never coming to the Brewers or the Cardinals. Cardinals would never deal him to Milwaukee. He'd be a guy, of course, I would love, but he's completely off the table because the Brewers would never trade him. Josh Naylor, I think Arizona would deal him, but he's a first baseman. I want to see what I have with Vaughn and with Hoskins when he does come back in 6 weeks, but I'm kind of going to ride out Vaughn. I have no choice to ride out Vaughn right now, but I kind of like what I have right over there with Vaughn. Let's see how that works out a little bit. I mentioned Cedric Mullins a couple of weeks ago. It wouldn't surprise me if the Brewers went out and got themselves an outfielder, although Isaac Collins is playing Gold Glove type outfield, right? I saw where defensively, Collins in left field is one of the best defensive left fielders in baseball, and he's not even a natural left fielder. I mentioned Cedric Mullins, kind of cooling off on that right now. But a lot of these pitchers, Zach Eflin of the Orioles, no. Luis Robert, the White Sox, no, not at all. Yeah, a lot of these players that are out on the market, I'd take Sanchez from Miami if the Marlins are going to deal him. Kiner Falefa of the Pirates, Brewers were interested in him a few years ago. They were interested in him a few years ago. I believe he was let go, or contract had run out with the Yankees. But he's a guy who I was interested in a couple of years ago, maybe. And I've heard he's a potential landing spot here. See, I think Ortiz is just not long for the Brewers. And I think any trade package the Brewers would do could involve Ortiz. That's my opinion. I think Ortiz, when we saw him benched last weekend, I think that's a sign of things. I told you guys that a long time ago. I don't think the organization is as high on Ortiz as maybe they once were. So, Ryan O'Hearn, first baseman. Naylor, I'm going to ride it out with Vaughn. Suarez, probably going to the Yankees, but I would love him here. Bregman, I don't like that. He's going to be a free agent. Too much money on that deferred list of cash that he's owed. LeMahieu has seen his better days. Ramirez would be the only one I'd really, really be interested in if he's on the market. God, I would love to have him. All right, what prospect would I trade? Who would I think the Brewers might be considering? And who knows what they're actually thinking and what I'm thinking are could be two different things. We'll get to that coming up next. Chuck Fraben here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. This episode brought to you by Supply House. Supply House, one of our great sponsors. Supply House, whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online, easy to use, complete inventory, over 200,000 parts, over 400 of the top brands out there. You'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And of course, if you need help with an order, customer service is so big these days, right? Because nobody wants to get on the phone line and sit on there for hours while you're trying to order something. Well, Supply House, you'll talk to the real person every time. You're not going to be going through millions of prompts of recording. Supply House gets you there and gets you what you need. Trade pros, if you're looking for that extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals already taking advantage. Some of the guys in my neighborhood have as well. And now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program, supplyhouse.com/TM. Start ordering plumbing, HVAC, electrical supplies, just a few clicks. Use the promo code SH5, 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com, supplyhouse.com. Good to have you along here on Locked On Brewers. You're on a Friday afternoon doing this podcast. It's not Friday afternoon, Friday morning already. Usually I have this done Friday morning, but hey, let's release it on Friday morning and see what we got. I thought maybe there might be some Brewers news coming down. Not trade news, but yeah, you never know. So I want to kind of squeeze that in on the off day, but so far the Brewers haven't really made any off day news so far. But hey, by the way, our podcast, if you're watching us on YouTube, please, if you want to listen to us on any of the podcast platforms on there, we're on all of them. Go to Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That alerts you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. If you're already listening to us on the platform, go to our growing YouTube page, search Locked On Brewers on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That alerts you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers, the number one Brewers podcast on the internet. And of course, you can always follow me on Twitter, Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND. I got a ton of questions from fans. I mean, if I did all of them on the mailbag, man, we'd be here for a while. But I'll try to get to a few here a little bit. Mike asked me, what prospect would I be most willing to deal, or what prospects would I might likely deal? Well, the Brewer prospects right now, Mate at the top of the list. I don't want to deal with him. Why? I don't want to deal him. I want to deal with him. I want him part of my future. Mate would be completely out of the table. He's the number one prospect in the Brewers organization right now. Mizorowski, obviously, no. Luis Pena, another 18-year-old kid, plays the middle infield. From what I understand, he's probably not available as well. Cooper Pratt, I mean, you look at it, the Brewers have a lot of middle infielder guys in their top prospects. Mate, Pena, and Cooper Pratt. Right? If all these guys make the majors, somebody's not going to play. You got Terang already there, and Terang is part of this future. We know that. Durbin, I think he is part of this future too. Murphy likes him a lot. Pratt, Pena, and Mate. I don't want to give up any of those three. Jefferson Kiro, who is bouncing back off that offseason hand injury. Let's see, Jefferson Kiro. So far this season. Let's see. He is get his exact batting average. If I could just pull that up real quick. He's batting .288 with 5 home runs between Biloxi and Nashville. Well, you still have Contreras under contract. But obviously, if Contreras, and he's injured, he's playing injured. I want Contreras here long term. I don't know what the Brewers' plans are on that, but Kiro, could I possibly deal him in a package deal? Logan Henderson, Mike Bovee, the first baseman. We can play some. You play third or first. He might be a guy I consider moving. Again, you're going to have to move somebody. If you're going to trade a prospect, you're going to make a big splash, right? Can I move Braylon Payne? What I think of these guys and what the Brewers think of these guys are two other things. Now, again, the Brewers could really like a prospect, really like somebody who's not on their hot list. There might be a guy who's one of their top 5 or 6 prospects who we say, well, is untradeable, but the Brewers might look at him and say, well, we can get by without him. We'll be fine trading him. Again, how the media and all these lists that come out, how we rank these guys and what the Brewers truly think of these guys are two different things. Tyler Black, for sure, I would deal. Tyler Black, who's listed right now as the 10th best prospect in the Brewers organization. He would be a guy I would for sure deal. But again, if you're going to make a big hit, you're going to have to think of one of your top 5 or 6 guys. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to trade Mate, for sure not Mizorowski. Pena, no. Pratt. Logan Henderson, no. Mike Bovee would be a guy who I'd throw into a package. And I think Ortiz, he's not a prospect, but young player. I think Ortiz could be in a package. I really do. I think Ortiz could possibly in a package to get an infielder. A team would have control of Ortiz. They might like him. I feel like Ortiz, like I said, my gut reading, Ortiz is not long for the Brewers. Wish I felt differently about that, but I don't. All right. We'll come back. We'll take a couple of your questions. And I think we'll finish the rest of these questions next week because we're kind of running out of time here. But I went real long on that first segment talking about trades. Well, we'll get to that coming up next. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Gametime has been a longtime sponsor. If you want to go to the games this weekend against Washington, go to the Gametime app. Tickets I see are down a little bit. Nationals, it's not the Cardinals in town. It's not the Cubs. It's the Nationals, right? So typically prices, people are trying to unload their tickets here in the summertime. Go to Gametime. You'll get incredible deals. Last minute deals, clear seat views, lowest price guaranteed, takes the worrying out of buying. You need to download the app, though. Download the Gametime app. And if you're a first-timer on the Gametime, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. I had a buddy of mine get seats behind the Brewer dugout. It was about 10 rows back, $65 a couple of Sundays ago. He got it through the Gametime app. And right now, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Your first purchase, you get $20 off, but you got to create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your purchase. Again, if you're going to maybe some of the concerts, summer concerts here in the great state of Wisconsin, Brewers games, maybe you want to go to a Packer exhibition game, go to Gametime, create the account today, download the Gametime app, last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed with Gametime. All right, down the stretch we come here on Locked On Brewers. All right. James says, love listening to the Freems, which is my nickname here in the state of Wisconsin. I love the energy from Murphy's crew. I was always disappointed with the lifelessness in Council's teams. These guys are having fun playing, and it makes them so much fun to watch. Yes. I said this yesterday. Council's teams look dead in the water sometimes. They look like they're in a malaise. Murphy, did you see him Wednesday? He was ticked off for most of that game on the bench because he wears his heart on his sleeve, which you want on a manager. He's not stoic over there like Council. And I think Murphy's attention to detail, that he wants baseball played a certain way, is what makes him great, right? Now, people might look at this and say, God, Murphy should have been a manager a long time ago. That's the case. We keep recycling some of these guys where all along we had the right guy, at least for this team, in our back pocket, Pat Murphy, right? As I said, he is right now manager of the year of the National League through halfway point of the season, doing an amazing job. But yeah, teams under Council, lifeless. Teams under Murphy, show a little spark, show a little fire, show a little attention to details. Play the game and play the game fundamentally right. James says, Chuck, maybe the Brewers catch the Cubs this weekend. Well, the Brewers would have to sweep this series from Washington, and the Yankees would have to sweep the Cubs, and that would put the Brewers a game ahead of the Cubs. Logan says, Brewer fever is real. I hope that Vaughn stays the course. We may not need a bat after all. Well, that's not true. I think we do need another bat. Murphy's culture and the way all these guys are hungry makes you excited for October. You're right. I agree with you. Craig says, no matter what happens the rest of the way, the Savali-Vaughn trade was a win just for sweeping this series. However, a trade for left-handed hitting O Hearn or Naylor puts them over the top. I don't know. I think they're going to ride out Vaughn here a little bit. The Vaughn trade with Savali. Vaughn played a big part in all three of those games, either with his glove or with his bat. The home run Monday night, Wednesday with the game-tying base hit in the ninth inning. Steve says, yes, we are cooking up a trade for Suarez. I would hope so, Steve, but I don't know about that. I would love to see Suarez here. Oh, T Twice says, hey, Chuck, love listening to your podcast. I'm glad McGill made the All-Star team. Would you consider Yelich a snub? Going back, when I first saw this question, I was like, yeah, Yelich should have been an All-Star. I think he should be on this team. McGill was a snub as well. McGill should be on this All-Star team. There shouldn't have to be players injured for McGill to make this All-Star team. Should have been on there already. Yelich, yeah, you can make an argument he should be on there as well. So I consider that a kind of a slight snub. Yelich is a huge reason why the Brewers are 13 games over the 500 mark, because they've got production for the middle part of their order, which they weren't getting a lot of with Yelich. If the middle of the order was just killing them with Contreras and Yelich, but Yelich has come up big. And to me, big part of the reason for the turnaround and a snub there. I was listening to a little of the Yankee broadcast. One of the Yankee broadcasters, I'm not going to say who, was complaining about why Soto's not in the All-Star game. Oh, I want to see the stars playing the All-Star game. No, I want to see the best players playing the All-Star game. And this broadcaster was running down, of course, listing all the big market guys who should be there, and completely ignoring Milwaukee, ignoring Minnesota, ignoring Cincinnati with Abbott, but listing all the big market. Oh, Soto should be there. People want to see the stars. No, I want to see the good players. Soto does not deserve to be there. He's not an all-star. Not having an all-star year. He's paid like one. But no, I want to see the guys who are having the best years. I don't necessarily have to see the names. I want to see the guys who are having the best years. And I think Yelich deserves to be there ahead of Soto. Obviously, Soto's amazing talent, but Yelich deserves to be there. And Soto does not. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. Locked On Brewers. I'll finish with that take right there. Hey, if you see me at the games this weekend, I won't have my glasses on. It's still early in the morning here, so I had to put the contacts in yet. But if you see me at the game, please stop and say hello. I'll be sitting around the first deck this weekend. I'll be out there covering the game as well. Please, as well, say hello. Always love to talk to the fans, the great fans who make this podcast possible. You guys are the reason why we're the number one Brewers podcast. You great Brewers fans, and the Brewers fans, the best fans in the world, because you support this team. You support this team without one World Championship in 55 years. It's going to do it. Have yourself a great weekend, everybody. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. We'll see you late Sunday night, everybody.